Hey everybody! I'm finally gonna do my Meet Charlotte video. She woke up in a very happy mood this morning, so yeah. This is actually gonna be a combo video. It's Meet Charlotte, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Charlotte, and then um, I am also going to do some stuff about my personal experience with childbirth, epidural, what to expect when you get to the hospital, etc. I mean, obviously, some experiences are going to vary when you get to the hospital because different hospitals have different policies, but you can expect kind of a general idea. So, for starters, this is Charlie. Her full name is Charlotte Rose, and I'm obviously not going to tell you her last name, but her nickname is Charlie. We call her Charlie because of multiple things. Number one is that I just think it's cute. I've always just kind of liked traditional boy names for girls, like Alex and Sam and Charlie and etc. and whatever. The second reason is that my grandpa's name was actually Charlie, and he died when I was 2 from lung cancer. But everybody in my entire life has always told me that I'm a lot like him. I look a lot like him. I act a lot like him in a lot of ways, and we just kind of have similar mannerisms. So I felt like it was a good way to honor him by naming my firstborn after him. And then the other reason is I wanted to pick a traditionally masculine name because that way, if she, first of all, it's cute on a girl. So if she identifies as a girl, it's still cute, it's adorable, and here she is, look how cute. She clearly likes the name. And, if she decides that she doesn't fit into a binary gender identity later on, she has a name that's not traditionally a girl name, so it's not, she can obviously change her name if she'd like to, but she won't be required to because it's kind of at this point gender neutral. So she right now is almost 4 months old. She'll be 4 months old on January 12th, which is actually the day I start up back at school. And she was born about 5.5 weeks early. So she was born, I went into the hospital on what I thought was 34 weeks and 4 days. That's what we had thought I was at. But it turns out that I was actually like 35 weeks and 4 days. So she was like, I don't know, 4 to 5 weeks early and was huge for a preemie. So she was 19.5 inches long, and she was 6 pounds, 10.5 ounces, and was totally normal. Sorry, she's not cooperating, so I have her laying in her little bassinet staring at the ceiling fan and sucking on her pacifier. So anyways, I was going to talk about my birth experience. So I'm going to kind of like set it up from the week before I gave birth to the week, or I guess a couple days after I gave birth. So the first day I'm going to talk about is the week before on a Thursday. I had been cramping earlier that week, and I was having it again, and it was like intense cramping that was for like a couple of hours at a time, and I didn't feel like contractions, it just felt like constant cramping. So I went into the hospital earlier that week, and they were like, yeah, you're fine, you're having contractions, but they're not labor contractions, they're false. And so I went back in and I was like, can you guys just check me? Like, I just don't feel like this is normal. I feel like I'm going to give birth soon. Like, I just feel like I'm being prepared for birth by my body. And they were like, you're fine. Like, stop worrying about it. You're fine. So they send me home, and the next Monday was my regular checkup. So she checks me then too, and I was like telling her, like, I feel like I'm going to have this baby soon. And she's like, no. Like, there's no medical reason why you would. There have been no signs that you will, give birth, which is true. And, you need to just stop worrying about it because getting yourself anxious is not going to help you feel better. And I'm like, okay. So I go home, and the next day, which was a Tuesday, I am like getting ready for bed at night, and I went to use the bathroom and like wiped, and I found this like clear goopy substance on the toilet paper, which I don't even know why I looked, but whatever. I just felt like there was something there. And it was my mucus plug, which kind of looks like, it looks like a ball of rubber cement, to be completely honest, and it has like a similar texture. So I called the doctor back freaking out because I'm like, listen, I'm going into labor soon. I can tell you this right now. I'm 34 weeks, but I know it's happening. Like, I just know. And I've been telling my family, I'm like, listen, like, I know this baby is coming early. Like, I just have this feeling. It's just, I think, maternal intuition. Like, I just know. And I call her and I'm like freaking out, and they're like, no, it's fine, it's normal. Like, women lose their mucus plugs all the time. Sometimes they grow back, sometimes they don't. It doesn't mean you're gonna go into labor early. It's totally normal. So I'm like, no, like, I'm telling you, like, I'm gonna have this baby. The next morning I wake up and I have fluid all over my legs and my pants. Like, it was intense. And I called them after we dropped my sister off at the airport for her Panamanian foreign exchange program, which she's there until the end of February. And I was like trying to hold out because I didn't want my sister to stress out, or, you know, be worried when she's going to do this like really scary thing already. And I knew that she was like already having trouble emotionally with leaving, and especially right before my, you know, her first niece is born. And so I didn't even tell my dad because I knew he would like let it slip. And so I waited until after she like goes into security, and I'm like, Mom, like, I think I need to go to the hospital. My dad's like, what? And my mom's like, okay, well, why don't we call the doctor first and see what they say? So I go to the doctor and they test me for amniotic fluid. They do 3 tests. There's a Fern test, a pigment test, and then a cough and bear down. So you bear down, that you cough. If fluid leaks, it's amniotic fluid. Unless you pee yourself, but they can tell because they're like looking. Then there's another test where they swab your vaginal fluid and they put it on a slide and let it dry. And if it dries with a Fern pattern, it's amniotic fluid. The third test they do is this like pigment test. So they put this stuff that has this like red pigment up in there by your cervix, and if it hits amniotic fluid, it'll turn blue. So usually if you've been leaking, it'll be like everywhere. Like, it'll have touched everywhere and that stuff will turn blue. Hi. Mine didn't. All of my tests came back negative. So they sent me home and they were like, you're fine. Like, just stop worrying about it. I was like, guys, I'm telling you. I am telling you. And, so the next day I wake up and I had stopped leaking that day, and like, it wasn't, if it was leaking, it wasn't enough that I was noticing it or worried about it. So the next day I wake up and I'm soaked through again, and I was like, okay, this is just weird. Like, I hope I'm not peeing my pants like every night for the rest of my pregnancy. So I like took a shower, changed, and I kept soaking through my pants. Like, I soaked through 4 pairs of pants, and my parents actually left for vacation that morning. And they told me the day before, they're like, okay, so should we go? Should we not go? And my doctor was like, you're not going into labor. You're fine. It's not amniotic fluid. So I was like, just go, enjoy your vacation, you know, whatever. No big deal. So I am 19 years old, about to have my first baby by myself in Ohio, which, I mean, I really just should have had them stay and told them to stay, but whatever. They deserve the vacation, or the potential of a vacation. And so Brent, who's my boyfriend, and her dad was like panicking and whatever. So we go into the doctor and they're like, yep, it's amniotic fluid. Lo and behold, I was right. I knew I was going into labor. Whatever. I didn't have contractions at that point or any other signs of labor aside from the fact that she dropped down recently and I was leaking fluid. So they send me to the hospital and they're like, we're going to put you on bed rest because we want to prolong, you know, the amount of time that she's in your uterus, because we need to get steroids and antibiotics into you both. So when you leak fluid early, you're at a high risk of infection. So they wanted 24 hours of antibiotics, which they had me on an IV drip. They wanted steroids for her lungs because when babies are small enough, they're born small enough, sometimes they don't have enough surfactant in their lungs to keep them from sticking together as they breathe. So they'd have to have a CPAP, which blows pressure basically into their airways to help keep them open and keep them from sticking until they can develop that themselves. But she was big enough that they weren't that worried about it. And it's okay. They were like preparing me to like have to send her to the NICU and like scaring me with all this stuff, and they weren't meaning to, but I was just really anxious and it was terrifying that I was having a baby early and that I was right. Like, for once I was right and whatever. And yeah. And so I get there and they put me on bed rest, and they had these things on my feet to keep them, they like would kind of fill up with air and then go back down to keep my circulation going. And they had me on an IV, which they had to do in my elbow, which would tell them that you would rather have it in your wrist because it's very hard to sleep with it in your elbow. And if you have to sleep with an IV in, you don't want it there. Just trust me. Especially if they put it on your left arm, because that's the side I had to sleep on. So I was like laying with my arm up like this and I'm like that, and it was just it was bad. But anyway, so I stayed there all day. My grandma worked at the hospital, so she was there, and she like brought me food and was like really helpful and trying to get everything sorted out and get a hold of my parents to let them know that I was going to be induced the next day at noon. Well, so that night, because I wasn't having any signs of labor, I sent Brent home at like 11, and I was like, just get some sleep. I'm going to be induced tomorrow at noon. Everything is going to be fine. I just, I want to make sure that you get enough sleep, because if at least one of us needs to get some sleep. So he goes home, and around 1:30 in the morning, I start having these really painful contractions, and I'm like, guys, this is it. And then I leaked a ton of fluid, and it was gushing everywhere. And it gushed enough that, like, they had this big pad on me because I'd been leaking fluid. It was like this long. I mean, it's literally like a belly button to like the top of or the middle of your back diaper, basically, in these mesh underwear. I soaked the entire thing. It soaked my bed and two of these like these like basically puppy pads they had under me. And so I like call in the nurse, and I'm like, yeah, like I'm going into labor. It's okay. I started having these painful contractions, and the contractions were so painful that I was like sheet white, and like shaking violently. Like I couldn't stop shaking or bawling. I was just bawling. And they're like, do you want an epidural? I'm like, get me the epidural right now. It was just bad. And I don't think every woman has that kind of experience. I had contractions in the back and in the front because of the way that she was laying. And she was apparently trying to like turn too. And they couldn't find her on a monitor, so I could feel her moving, but like they couldn't find her, and they couldn't find my contractions. But I'm like, I'm definitely having them. They are bad. So I called Brent to come back, and then they bring in the anesthesiologist, who was like trying to tell me all this stuff about epidurals. I'm like, I don't give a flying frack. Put that needle in my back, get this pain to go away, and let me take a nap. So they give me the epidural, and the epidural was actually much easier than I expected. I would say that it was kind of uncomfortable. It feels like an IV in your back, which is essentially what it is. It's a little plastic tube they insert into the epidural space next to your spinal column, in your spinal cord. And it's uncomfortable, but they give you lidocaine shots to help numb it beforehand. And honestly, I could not have done it without an epidural. I mean, that sounds like such a wuss thing to say, but I was so stressed out because of my contractions that I think my labor would have been a lot longer and a lot harder to get through had I not had it. So I was really glad that I had it, and I have had no complications from it, aside from a little bit of muscle soreness for about 3 or 4 weeks after, which is completely normal. And actually there was one day where, and it was only muscle soreness where if I would arch my back it would hurt, but that was it, and it wasn't serious, like pain. It was just muscle soreness. And so anyways, I was only in labor for about 9 hours. I slept through the night, and then Brent slept there with me, and we woke up at like 8 in the morning, and I was like 5 centimeters dilated. And then I called my parents to come in, and they were like, they had just gotten home. They like flew back and had just gotten home at like 11 at night. And I told them to just go ahead and sleep through the night and whatever. I wanted them in the room, but I told them to sleep. And I called them at 8, and I was like, so yeah, I'm 5 centimeters dilated, so can you head in here soon? And like, I just really need the moral support right now. I didn't feel any contractions until I was pushing, literally, because of the epidural. It was fantastic. Hi, it's okay. Oh, goodness. She's got a cold, so she's got postnasal drip. Anyways, so hi. So the pushing part was interesting. I didn't feel actual pain, but the discomfort from pressure still with an epidural is pretty ridiculous. I mean, there's a person moving through your body and coming out, and that, I have never felt more, a more overwhelming sense of satisfaction than when she came out, because the pressure was so intense that, like, having that relieved, it was just like, holy crap, I just pushed a human out. Like, that is insane, and I might pass out. And I actually felt kind of nauseous while I was pushing, but it only took me about 45 minutes to get her out, and she ended up being about almost 7 pounds, 19.5 inches long. She could breathe on her own. She could regulate her body temperature, and her blood sugar was fine, so they didn't have to send her to the NICU. And she went to the well baby nursery. So then they sewed up my episiotomy, which I had, which uncomfortable, but like I'm so glad that they did it because it sped up my labor so much, or I guess my delivery so much. And the discomfort of the episiotomy was nothing compared to the discomfort of having her in my body coming out. So it was really worth it, and it healed really fast, and it's healed totally fine, and I've had like no complications from it. And I had actual tears in addition to my episiotomy that were not cut. They were tears from her head coming out. And I don't know. It was fine. If your doctor says that they need to do one, if you're cool with that and you you know, can handle stitches fine and lidocaine fine and whatever, then I say go ahead and do it if you're comfortable with that, because I haven't had any complications from it, and it's actually been, the episiotomy scar healed so much faster than the scar from the normal tear. So, okay. And the little tiny tear was smaller than my episiotomy. So I don't know what to say about that, but okay. And, let's see what else. Okay, so right after you have the baby, they will change your gown because you probably have blood all over your gown, and they probably will take away all like your placenta and the umbilical cord and everything. You know, they will like try to clean you up a little bit and get you comfortable. They'll give you food, they'll give you ice chips, they'll probably take your IV port out. Sorry, she's fussing. So I'm just gonna wrap this up really quickly because she's really stressed out and I need to like deal with her. They're going to take care of your baby. They'll make sure that it's okay. They'll make sure you're okay. Your doctor will come in and talk to you about your healing process and what to be expected in the next couple of days, when they're planning on discharging you if you have no complications later, etc. Then they'll try to probably get you to get up and walk around. I suggest doing that because I swelled so much. I swelled so much in my legs from just sitting there. And I couldn't straighten my legs because they were so swollen at the knee. And it was hard to walk, and it was painful, and it just sucked. So just don't try to walk around if you can. If you can handle it, just do it. I had a bunch of visitors. I kind of regret having so many visitors or allowing so many visitors all day, because I enjoyed seeing everybody, and it was so nice for everybody to come in to see me. But I wish I'd spent a little more time, like, bonding with her and bonding with as a family. Rather than showing her off to everybody like I was inclined to do. It's like, look what I just pushed out of my body. Awesome. I made this, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so if you have any further questions, I'm actually going to do a Q&A video coming up soon. So comment, like, subscribe if you're interested. Send me a message on Tumblr if you are interested. My URL is angryfeministmom.tumblr.com. That rhymes. So, yeah. Alright, I'm probably going to have another video up, hopefully in a few days. Hopefully maybe Saturday. So, yeah, okay. See ya.